joining us. We're going to give it a few minutes before officially getting started. So you can use this time if you want to go grab a cup of coffee, take a quick break. We'll give it about 2 more minutes before getting started. I guess it depends how near coffee is to you if you can run back, but you definitely will not be able to do a Starbucks run. But again, welcome. Thank you for joining us. The Continuum of Care Division welcomes you. We'll get started soon. And for those of you that are hanging with us while we're waiting to get started, feel free to type in your full name, agency, and an email so we can make sure that we keep you plugged in to these webinars that are hosted each month. All right, Melanie, do you know if we have all of our speakers on? I see Dawn's on. Thank you, Dawn. Good to see you on here. And then Dr. Bowers was one of the first ones in attendance. Thank you for being here. And let me see, Susan Kreshner, are you on? And if you are, can you unmute yourself so we can do a quick mic check?
Hi, it's actually Nina Peppers. I'm filling in for her.
All right, Nina, welcome. I don't think we've met. Maybe we have, but it's nice to see you.
Pleasure as well.
All right, well, with that said, let's go ahead and get started. Thankfully, I haven't cut into our speaker's time. I've only cut into my time, but we want to welcome you to our Multidisciplinary to Approaches and Ending Homelessness webinar for the month of May. As you know, we are doing a really good job in keeping these consistent, and of course, only through your help. I think it's really important anytime you launch an event that you share the why. And the reason that we started hosting these webinars was really to provide an opportunity for our local partners to share on the good work that we're doing. We often speak to the talent that we have in our community. There's a lot of good work, and specifically for this month's topic, we're going to be hitting on veteran homelessness. And since 2013, we have been keeping track of the number of veterans that have been linked to housing. I'm very proud to say that Riverside County has linked over 1,600 veterans to permanent housing. And that is through a large partnership, many of you on the line, and of course our speakers and the agencies they represent, VA Veteran Affairs, US Vets, and Lighthouse Social Services. So today you'll get to hear some of their local practices and how they have aided to this cause. On the schedule, and thank you to Melanie Wilson, who is with our Continuum of Care Planning team and is very proactive in making sure that we stay on track with these webinars, coordinates each of the topics, and puts together these fun slides that you get to enjoy. We'll be hearing from VA Don Sutton, who is here and eager to share about the VA Loma Linda's work towards the cause. We'll then hear from Nina Peppers, who is here and will highlight Lighthouse Social Services. And then last but certainly not least, Dr. Bowers, who will share on US Vet. We want to encourage you, if you haven't already, before we get started, please sign in. Tell us your name, which agency you represent, and include an email so we can make sure that you stay plugged into these meetings. I know many times invites get forwarded, and we want to make sure that we are able to stay connected with you. Also, my last plug is to encourage you to think about future topics that you'd like to participate in. And as I say that, I remember, while we did save some time at the end for Q&A, if you've participated in these sessions in the past, we would love for you to type your questions into the chat box as the speakers are talking. Speakers, we want to encourage you to check out the chat box simultaneously if you can. If not, don't worry, we'll read the questions out loud to you so that we can make sure we get to answer as many questions as possible. So thank you again, everybody, for joining us. With that, I'll go ahead and hand it off to Don Sutton with VA Loma Linda Healthcare System. Thank you for joining us, Don.
Oh, thank you. Can you hear me? Mic check first. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm honored to be here to talk about my expertise and possibly how I can help. I was asked today to talk about types of military discharge and how they affect the eligibility here at Loma Linda. So I'm not part of the eligibility department. I work very closely with them, but I am a transition patient advocate. I've been doing this for, I don't know, just under 20 years now. And I'm not an advocate in the traditional sense. They call me a transition patient advocate. My job has traditionally been to help the veterans and their families transition out of the military into our VA system from behind the scenes. So within that, I was given a lot of different resources. I can see benefits. I can see the benefits claims. I can see benefits. Anything happening at the benefits administration in real time for any veteran. I can help with the eligibility pieces. I keep up with, well, me and my roommate, we keep up with all of the new things that come out on discharge upgrades. And we help our clinicians kind of navigate these things for the veterans. So anytime I can help any of you with your veterans, I would implore you to give me a call. Keep me on your list, shoot me an email. Any way you can get a hold of me to ask me about your veterans, whether that's for eligibility, whether that's helping to get them connected with claims, to see how their claims are going. I can do any of those things. And that's exactly what I do day in and day out. So, but today we're going to talk about military discharges and how they affect us. Are there any questions about, and so about me a little bit, I'm a Desert Storm and Iraq Gulf war veteran. I spent, I don't know, I've got about 8 years of active duty service and I don't know how many of reserve time, but this is where I sit now, and I really enjoy helping veterans. I enjoy helping clinicians help veterans. I love helping the community help veterans. So it's kind of my passion too, and it's what I love to do. I'm very blessed in my position. So um, let's move on. Is there any questions so far for me? Has anybody got any, burning questions for me before I start? Okay, good. Let's jump right into military discharges. So there was a PowerPoint slide, but are we not showing that, or is it up, or?
It is up, Dom.
Oh, there it is. Okay. So on the discharge types defined, I don't know, there's 7 on here. There's actually 8. Honorable, general and honorable, other than honorable, bad conduct, dishonorable, and then there's this uncharacterized discharge, which also encompasses entry level separations, medical separations, and convenience of the government separations. So with all these different types, we'll start with each one, but the first thing to understand about a discharge is an end of service. If you're a military member, you may understand it a little better. I was a military member and I didn't understand it at all. But your discharges are completed through your administration section. So it's not done by the Department of the Army or the Navy or the Marine Corps. It's actually just your administrative section of your unit is going to type up your discharge paperwork and get your records together and then forward those off to St. Louis. They're going to try and get you a copy of your military service records and your personnel records if you request them. I think most of the veterans, probably 80%, don't get copies. I don't understand it, but they don't. Whenever I ask, I kind of get the answer, no, I don't have any copies. Even in today's environment where they're going through so many different exit type of classes, they're still not impressed to get these copies. But on the discharge is typed up. I just had one this morning where their administrative section typed in the wrong social security number on their DD-214, and the veteran did not realize it, signed the DD-214, and it is a mess now. So we have the veteran listed in all of our VA databases under the wrong social security number. However, he is receiving social security on his proper social security number. Now we have to go do things like correction of military records through DOD, get that paperwork, and then change our systems, which is going to be a horrible thing to try to do. But he didn't notice it, so now it's a problem. Honorable discharge is obviously the most desirable discharge. There's not much to talk about. Honorable discharge just means that they have fulfilled the obligation that they had, and that could be in so many different ways. Almost all obligated service contracts are for 6 years. So except when you talk about being drafted or recalled on a mobilization for reserves and guard, but if somebody joins the service for as long as I can remember, it's a 6-year contract, and that could have been done in many different ways. Right now they do 4 years active, 2 years inactive, 6-year contract, or it's 3 and 3 or 2 and 4. It could happen in different ways, but for VA purposes, honorable discharges, other than deployments. So we have a lot of many OIF, OEF veterans that were recalled into active service for Iraq and Afghanistan. So they received all sorts of different DD-214s with different timeframes. They are eligible for VA care for 5 years based on those deployments. But our basic eligibility for VA healthcare is 2 years, 24 consecutive months. So even with our Iraq and Afghanistan veterans, they usually have less than 24 months, but they have that 5 years of free healthcare. Now, what Congress decided at that time was that, hey, look, we're going to give them the free years of healthcare based on the deployment, and in that time, what our expectation is that they're going to get service connected for the injuries they're getting seen for. That was the bigger plan, and it worked real well. But a lot of veterans didn't. They either ignored the problems or they let the 5 years lapse, and now they're coming back, and we've got to do other things with them. We we have to get them eligible. They are eligible with their deployment, but if they're not low income, or they're not don't have a service connection, or they don't have any other kind of eligibility, then we're not going to be able to see them. So a lot of times I will work with veterans, with groups, with our clinicians to get them service connected, and work with the veteran to get that done as quickly as possible. The next one is general discharge. So when we talk about general discharges are the next most desirable. General under honorable simply means that the veteran, it means they didn't fulfill their contract and they were released for some other reason. That reason wouldn't fall into the category. It's an administrative discharge. So honorables, general under honorables, and other than honorables are all considered administrative discharges. And this is going to get a little bit complicated, but administrative discharges are non-punitive discharges. So when we talk about a general under honorable, it's a non-punitive. It could mean that they couldn't fit the needs of the service, they couldn't do the fitness, or they had some sort of misconduct, and their units wanted to move them out. So again, the discharges are done at the unit level, which is another problem. It's not an Army, because then when we ask for discharge upgrades, it's actually through the DoD branch. So they're discharged at unit level, but they're asking for a discharge upgrade at a DoD branch level. It's very, very, very complicated too. They may have failure for physical standards. They didn't meet professional qualifications, things like that. So those are general under honorables. The only thing that a general under honorable would lose versus an honorable is the education benefit, the GI Bill. That's it. There is no difference as far as VA is concerned between a general and an honorable. And as far as our healthcare goes, same. The only thing, when I talk to these veterans who have generals and they've just gotten out, then I'm going to help them get a discharge upgrade if it's possible. But the only thing that they're going to lose is the GI Bill. Then we move on to other than honorable discharges. Now these are, it's an administrative discharge, but it's a bar to VA benefits. So it's a bar to healthcare. It's a bar to many things, employment, VA home loans, veterans preference, things like that. These kind of discharges pretty almost all the time follow the rule of they didn't fit under the laws of the UCMJ, but they didn't break any civilian criminal law. Does that make sense? Security violations, adultery, use of violence, drug and alcohol. Those are the ones that I see all the time. Other than honorables are again at the unit level, and oftentimes, other than honorables will be in lieu of a court martial. So I talk to a lot of veterans who have OTHs. We can put them into the system if they have combat. If they're an OTH discharge with combat, we can move them into the system for mental health for an indefinite period of time. And they get coded that way. So if you have a veteran who has an OTH with combat, get a hold of me, and we'll get them in here and help them out and get them into the system, at least for mental health. And then we can do things like file claims, and I'll talk to them, talk about discharge upgrades, do all sorts of things, at the willingness of the veteran. And typically that's my biggest hurdle, is the willingness of the veteran. But they will get out in lieu of a court martial. So they may not even have done a lot of the offenses they're accused of, but in lieu of a court martial, they just say, okay, I'm going to get out. I'll make this all better later. And then they find out that they're not eligible for the VA healthcare. They're not eligible for disability benefits and the home loans, or any of those things. They're a bar from benefit. We can still work with OTHs. the thing I would ask you all to do is, if you have one of these in front of you, you can give me a call, you can send me an email, and I'll look them up and I'll give you my ideas. I'll talk to eligibility if I think that's appropriate, and see if we can move them in. Another thing to know is, if you're talking to any veteran and they have military sexual trauma, MST, that trumps everything. If they've got MST, we're going to be able to get them in for mental health, regardless of the discharge type. So if you have that in front of you, know that's available. Next, bad conduct discharges, BCDs. We call them big chicken dinners. These are folks who committed a crime. They also are. This is where we start with our punitive discharges. Bad conduct discharges are based on some sort of crime, whether that's against the UCMJ or civilian. And there's usually a court martial that goes along with it. There's usually some sort of brig time that goes along with it. Bad conduct. With a bad conduct, there is not a lot that can be done. We don't have any loopholes for eligibility for bad conducts or dishonorables. It's the same. And when you look at this list, honorable, general, other than honorable, bad conduct, dishonorable, usually when you ask for a discharge upgrade, you're upgraded one level. So bad conducts upgrade to an other than honorable. Other than honorables upgrade to general, and generals upgrade to honorable. So I have seen other than honorables upgrade to honorable, especially with our OEF population that has PTSD diagnosed. They're being very lenient. At least they have been over the past 7-8 years. But when we get into bad conduct discharges, dishonorable discharges, there is not a lot that we can do, except for VA purposes. We try to move them into community resources. Uncharacterized discharges. Now, these fall under all sorts of different discharges too, medical separations and convenience of the government. So I don't see too many convenience of the government, but I do see them. They don't show up that way. They show up as uncharacterized. A pregnancy in the military where the veteran decided to get out to start a family, but they didn't serve their 24 consecutive months, and now they're a bar from VA care. So for a veteran like that, I'm immediately going to turn to, well, how long did you serve? Did you have any injuries or conditions during that time that you did serve? Let's file a claim for disability, which will then move you into eligibility for healthcare again. And then lastly, we talk about medical discharges. And medical separations are done in the service, in the branch. There's what's called MEB, which is a medical evaluation board, and then a physical evaluation board, a PEB. So MEB, PEB, you might hear that term. MEB is where it starts, where a member comes into the medical staff. Let's say they have a bad knee. That bad knee is either treatable or it's not. So if that bad knee is bad enough, if there's enough trauma to the knee that veteran can no longer function and pass the physical fitness test, they're considered kind of a broken tool for that service. They can't use them any longer. So they do, the first thing is they send them to a medical evaluation board. They send all the paperwork to the board. The board looks at all the testing that's been done, all the diagnoses, and then they make an evaluation of whether or not this veteran is a viable candidate to continue on in the service, or we need to move them on to the physical evaluation board. If they continue with service, obviously it could be, hey, we're going to give you a year and a half to recover from this injury and then see how it goes. You'll be on light duty till that time. Or, hey, it looks like this is a permanent injury. We need to move you into the physical evaluation board. Physical evaluation board simply means that we've decided we're moving you out of the service and we're going to medically separate you. Medical separations can be one of two things, a medical separation or a medical retirement. So all branches of service rate injuries very much like VA does on percentages, 0, 10, 20, 30 to 100. The 0, 10s, and 20 injuries in DOD equal a medical separation, an admin SEP. They are offered a stipend and they are removed from the service. They don't get a medical retirement for a 0, 10, or 20% injury or set of injuries. They do, however, get a medical retirement if those injuries equal or are greater to 30%. But in either case, if they're a medical separation, the military now does a really good job of putting them into a medical command that will help them with the VA process and getting their disability at least started before, if not completed, before their separation. So this is all, and I'm kind of giving you just the tip of the iceberg on this. I'm not giving you the whole everything I know about this and everything there is to know about this. It's just very complicated because there's so many different systems involved. There's DOD, and then there's the Benefits Administration, and then the healthcare, and we all have different requirements for each one of these things. So it can get, everyone's an individual. So as you come across these individuals, there's not a hard, fast way or an easy way to tell you how to get them into the system. If there's some sort of questions that you have, I guess I would ask you, just let me know real quick and I'll look them up real quick and I'll give you my assessment, and then I can work with the veteran one-on-one too. I can just call them up, and I do have HIPAA restrictions, so I can only tell you so much, and but I can tell the veteran anything. So with that, I'll kind of end it. I hope, yeah, I'm still in time, right? Do I have any questions about any of that?
Hi, Don. There are 2 questions in the chat box. I'll take the first one I see. What is the difference between bad conduct and dishonorable?
Bad conduct and dishonorable are with court martials, but dishonorable are crimes like they're murder, theft, espionage, things like that. Bad conducts can be things like infractions against the UCMJ, plus selling something like selling drugs, things like that. So they're very close, but dishonorable is going to be a crime that is a heinous crime.
Awesome. And then I know most people that enter homelessness, I know for me, when I did HUD-VASH was the very first program that I was plugged into. There's a question in the chat box, just if you can very briefly talk about the eligibility for that program, maybe for folks who don't know, just kind of lightly touch on what the HUD-VASH program provides.
Ooh, man, I would have got you a HUD-VASH expert on here. That is a big, I used to work a lot with homeless and HUD-VASH, but over the years, we have a massive homeless program filled with, I don't know how many social workers. I want to say it's above 80, doing all sorts of different things, and they all have different programs within their programs. So I try to really stay away from that. But HUD-VASH, I'll tell you that we have a Valor building just for our to house all these social workers doing these different things. But HUD-VASH is basically Section 8 for VA. So that's how I've always viewed it. We get Section 8 vouchers from the counties, specifically Riverside and San Bernardino. Both of those have different restrictions and terms on those vouchers. So each one's treated differently. I think they're split up over there too by their respective counties. But as we decide as the VA how to split up our vouchers, our Section 8 vouchers for those counties. I'd like to say I knew what we process first, you know, what's the most emergent, but I don't. I'm going to say it's women and children that don't have housing. But I almost any veteran can get HUD-VASH. A lot of times they do go on a waiting list, and HUD-VASH, of course, since we're getting vouchers from the respective counties, we are restricted to the amount of vouchers that we receive and then the amount of veterans that we can help. So we triage those, and that's the part I don't know. I don't know our triage methods. And then the veteran has to go through their process if there's you know, any restrictions or things that we need them to do. But there's not really. I've seen HUD-VASH vouchers go to some of our 100% service-connected veterans. So I always encourage any veteran who's experiencing homelessness or has some imminent homelessness to go over to our HUD-VASH section, our Valor building, and then seek, you know, out our peer supports or, you know, the frontline staff that's going to triage them and then give them their options. A lot of times, again, they're going to be stuck with having to move them to any kind of shelters until we can process those things. And that's the hard part. Our homeless population, you know, they're hard to kind of wrangle up. So, but they've got to kind of stick out that process. Does that answer the question? Did it tell you I'm not knowledgeable? I'm not very knowledgeable at all about it.
No, it was quite the opposite. I was hoping you would stop saying you weren't knowledgeable about it because I thought you did such a great job. I would give you full points for answering that question.
That's only because you don't know how big that and how much they can do over there. If a HUD-VASH social worker was sitting here, they'd be like, Dawn, how did you forget? Dawn, how did you forget? You know.
No, I think we're walking away knowing that HUD-VASH provides Section 8 vouchers to homeless veterans, and at the VA Loma Linda, right, provides support to both San Bernardino and Riverside County. I think it's very cool that you guys have a dedicated Valor building just to support this population. And talk about quality service. You guys have 80 dedicated social workers.
I think it's more than 80. I think it's 130, but I don't know. So,
well, it may not be that much.
Yeah, but right, good quality care. It's always nice to know that with our housing programs, we're big on housing in Riverside County. We want to make sure that we can facilitate linkages to housing as quickly as possible, but more so our conversations in the last few years have really moved on making sure that we're also scaling up the level of supportive services that we're providing. And I can say that using clinical social workers to do that effort is great. And so it's nice to know that, again, we have a program for veterans who are, and their families who are experiencing homelessness. I really appreciated that breakdown of all the different discharge statuses. I feel like I learned so much today and took lots of aggressive notes that I'll keep with me forevermore. And I was texting Melanie giving her kudos because I thought it was brilliant to have you start off, Dawn, with that piece. You did an excellent job because now we'll not only get to hear about HUD-VASH, but the other programs provided by our nonprofit providers who I know work very closely with you. So 2 thumbs up, Dawn. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate all of you bearing with me through that. And I really appreciate if any of you need help with your veterans, please contact me. You know, whether it's here on Teams or whether it's through an email or phone call. Would anybody need me to just put up my contact information on the board?
Yes, please. Yes, Dawn, please.
Okay, I'll do that. And then other than that, I'm gonna just say goodbye.
Thank you, Dawn. We appreciate you. Good seeing you.
Thank
Nice
you
to make
all.
a new friend.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, we're going to jump over to hear from Nina Peppers, who is ready. Her video is on. She came, she's just beaming, ready to share information. So Nina, we'll go ahead and hand the mic to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tanya. Very excited to share with you guys and honored to share with you the Lighthouse Social Service Center's veteran programs. Once again, my name is Nina Peppers. I am a housing navigator and outreach worker. So I'm just going to begin. Our mission here at Lighthouse Social Service Centers, we're dedicated to enhancing lives and meeting the diverse needs of individuals, families, and communities. Through the utilization of comprehensive integrated social service systems, Lighthouse supports clients in breaking the cycle of homelessness and works to keep families together and strives to build strong, healthy communities. Next slide, please. Okay, so we have, I'll say technically 4 veteran programs. I'm going to run down the first one for you. Next slide. Supportive Services for Veteran Families program, which the acronym is SSVF. That's actually the program that I am a part of. It's the biggest veteran program, I believe, here at Lighthouse. The SSVF program assists veteran families who are homeless or are at significant risk of homelessness in their housing crisis and stabilize in permanent housing. We offer 2 primary forms of assistance. The first is homelessness prevention services. Homelessness prevention assistance is intended for eligible veteran families who are imminently at risk of becoming literally homeless. A typical client for homeless prevention would have a 3-day notice. That's kind of like a red flag for us that, oh, it sounds like a homelessness prevention service need. The second form of assistance is rapid rehousing services. Rapid rehousing assistance is intended for eligible veteran families who are literally homeless and may remain literally homeless, but for SSVF assistance. The SSVF program focuses on securing and maintaining housing for veterans and their families who are currently homeless or would be homeless without this assistance. The program provides case management, temporary financial assistance, and supportive services to help individuals and families gain housing stability and end their homelessness. Next slide, please. Thank you. So to continue with SSVF, our target population, we provide to veteran families residing in the counties of San Bernardino and Riverside. Our program goal is for veterans in the SSVF program to remain stably housed after the SSVF temporary assistance ends. The services offered include outreach, which is me, hello, case management, assistance obtaining VA and public benefits. So we work very closely with the VA, and limited temporary financial assistance, which includes intensive case management, rental assistance, utility fee payment assistance, housing location assistance, once again, that's me, and moving assistance. So that pretty much sums up SSVF. There's a lot that entails. Our second veteran program here at Lighthouse is our grant and per diem transitional living program, which we refer to as GPD. The Lighthouse GPD Transitional Living Program provides comprehensive transitional living services in a drug and alcohol-free, peer-oriented, supportive environment. Transitional living services can be provided to 12 veterans at any given time, and the program is conducive to establishing and maintaining physical and mental health stability and ensuring resident safety and care. Our transitional living program is housed in a 4-unit apartment building located in Moreno Valley. Each apartment has 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. There's a large living room area and an eat-in kitchen in each apartment. And the separate apartment living arrangement allows us to implement a home environment that each veteran is responsible for maintaining. 4 residents share an apartment and are responsible for cooking, cleaning, and maintaining their community unit. 1 apartment houses the agency reception area, staff office, and group services area. The facility is in walking distance from public transportation, shopping, and community amenities. And Lighthouse also provides transportation to assist veteran residents with getting to VA appointments, job interviews, and other community resources. So I don't know if you guys have been out in the community and seen the big van transporting around, but they transport them wherever they need to go as well. The target population for our grant and per diem program is homeless male veterans who are living with a mental illness or mental health issue. The services are provided to both Riverside and San Bernardino counties, VISN 21, as well as Loma Linda VA Medical Center catchment area. The program goal of the transitional living program are threefold. Residential stability of participants, increased skills and income levels of participants, and greater self-determination of participants. GPD services offered are comprehensive transitional living services, on-site intensive case management services, on-site group experiences, a drug and alcohol-free environment, services to veterans with mental illness, vocational and employment support services, life skills development, a peer-oriented supportive environment, as well as medical and mental health services provided through the Loma Linda VA Medical Center. Our next program, the reason I said we have about 4 is because we have Hope for Heroes 1 and 2 permanent supportive housing program, which we refer to as PSH. The Hope for Heroes 1 and 2 permanent supportive housing program assists homeless disabled veterans and their families break the cycle of poverty and homelessness. The Hope for Heroes PSH program is committed to working with our veteran heroes to secure permanent stable housing. The program provides 1 and 2 bedroom fully furnished apartments located in San Bernardino County. Next slide, please. Okay, and continuing, the target population for our Hope for Heroes PSH program serves disabled veterans residing in the counties of San Bernardino and Riverside within the Loma Linda VA Medical Center catchment area. The annual income of the veteran family may not exceed 50% of area median income. And the Hope for Heroes 2 program serves an additional 11 veteran eligible households who are honorably discharged and with an adult household member diagnosed as disabled. Their primary source of income, if any, could include entitlement benefits, SSI, SSDI, general relief, veteran benefits, or employment income. The program goal of PSH is to provide ongoing supportive services, including case management services, as well as provide permanent stable housing. Hope for Heroes services offered are permanent stable housing, ongoing case management services, supportive services, basic needs assistance, and linkage to Loma Linda VA Medical Center, education, vocational, and family support services. The contact information listed here, I believe I saw in the chat someone was asking if they could have a copy of this. If you'd like, I can also put in the chat the information for these contacts. But Karen Young-Low is our president and CEO of Lighthouse Social Centers programs. Susan Kirshner is the program manager for SSVF, Supportive Services for Veteran Families. That's my boss. And a part of SSVF, we have 2 intake specialists. For San Bernardino County, we have Rolisha Anderson. And for Riverside County, we have Alicia Lucero. as point of contacts. For the Hope for Heroes 1 and 2 PSH programs and the Grant and Per Diem program, Heather Burrows is the program manager, and their intake specialist is Chase Preciado. Next slide. And then if you need to contact the office, in order to reach any of the people that I just named for any of the programs that Lighthouse offers, the phone number is listed here, the 571-3533, and then they'll transfer you over to whichever program department that you need. Thank you guys so much. Is there any questions?
We actually do have some questions in the chat box. The first one being, will homeless veterans in Riverside be able to access services through the Hope for Heroes program since it's located in San Bernardino County?
Yes, it is for Riverside and San Bernardino County. However, it's located in San Bernardino.
Awesome. And there were some other questions in the chat box, general questions about access to your PowerPoint. So you're popular, your notes are popular, and so we just want to assure our participants that we will be posting the webinar in addition to any supporting docs on our website.
Awesome. Thank you, Tanya.
And then actually another question just came in. Thank you, Carol. What is the wait time to get into your program?
The wait time, well, it varies per program. There's not what I would call a wait time. Really all you do is you give a call, go through the intake screening process and move forward from there. There's no wait time.
That's always what we want to hear. That's amazing that you guys have been able to accomplish that. Another question is, will your agency be able to assist, or do you assist veterans in obtaining documentation that they need for your program? I'm thinking, right, documents that would impact their eligibility.
Yes, definitely. DD-214s, we assist them in obtaining, as well as ID, social security cards, birth certificates, VA medical care, as well as increases in VA benefits if able.
Excellent. Well, with that, Nina, we just want to give you a round of applause and thank you for joining us today for this webinar. And
thank you guys so much. My pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. If everyone's ready, we'll jump over to our next guest speaker and hear from Dr. Bowers with US Vets. I have to share, I love all three agencies, that I did actually get to do an internship with US Vets when I was getting my master's in social work. So I'm excited to hear from Dr. Bowers and the programs that they're currently providing, because time goes by so fast. It's already been 2 years. So thank you, Dr. Bowers, for joining us.
Well, congratulations. Sounds like it was a couple of years ago, but it's definitely not an easy program. It really challenges you to really push yourself on how much sleep you can go without, and how many hours a day you can just be working, either between your classes, your internship. So it's definitely something to be proud of. We here at US Vets, we have a couple of staff members who are pursuing it, and we definitely are very supportive of our staff advancing their education and continuing to their professional development. So I'll go ahead and get into our presentation. This presentation is really going to be focused on our clinical strategies within our programs. So just as an overview in terms of our programs, we have our, actually, I'm going to start first just by introducing myself. So my name is Dr. Celeste Bowers. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I come from a diverse background of social work, working inpatient, outpatient. I spend a little time working for IEHP, I worked on their homeless pilot project, provided authorizations for SUD, BH services. I've worked with diverse populations, those at-risk individuals, families, children, homeless, also migrant populations. And my current role is the Director of Behavioral Health for US Vets. This is a very new role. So probably when you were here at US Vets, Tanya, you probably worked with a clinical director. So the Director of Behavioral Health is a very new role, and we have a lot of new initiatives that we're working on in the next couple of, hopefully, years. We'll be seeing some different programming come. So right now, I oversee the programs with our program manager, Calvin Jackson. I'm sure a lot of people here probably interfaced with him to some degree. And our current programs are the emergency shelter program. Our Safe Haven contract just ended this spring. So we have our emergency shelter grant here just for Riverside County. Our SSVF program, very similar, or I'm sorry, the same program as Lighthouse. Transitional housing, and then long-term supportive housing, which is our March Veterans Village. So I'm, again, very honored to be able to present a different perspective on some of the strategies that our organization are utilizing to end homelessness. So I wanted to start with just kind of sharing a couple of facts about homelessness to really emphasize the importance of considering engagement strategies and client-centered strategies. So according to the state of California, their homeless fact sheet in California, nearly 30% of people who are chronically homeless have severe mental illness. And those estimates are 10 to 20% higher than the general population. According to a HUD survey in 2015, so these numbers are a little bit older, they estimated that 25% of those who are experiencing homelessness, chronic and acute, have severe mental illness, and 45% have mental illness. And a more recent survey, 2019, estimated that those numbers were higher, closer to 30%. And 50%. So when you look at the population needs and you're engaging the population to move towards being housed, it's really important to consider what are those strategies? Are those client-centered? Are those evidence-based? And that's really what I want to discuss and kind of share what our strategies are. Can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, so I want to start with our mission statement: the successful transition of military veterans and their families through the provision of housing, counseling, career development, and comprehensive support. So again, that's our programming, and that's what we do. And then this presentation is going to talk about how we do that. Next slide. So again, here's just a program overview. We have our supportive permanent housing program that's specific for San Bernardino County. We have our transitional housing program, which is here on March Air Force Air Reserve Base. We have our long-term supportive housing, March Veterans Village, and then our emergency shelter grants. We offer counseling, case management. We have our SSVF and our workforce as well. So this slide really talks about what does client-centered care mean for US Vets. So it is an integration of our theory for practice and our theory of practice, which are strength-based, solution-focused, cognitive behavioral theories, solution-focused theories, and then our integration of motivational interviewing, knowledge of the stages of change model. Case managers are trained in DBT techniques, harm reduction techniques, and really just supporting our client self-determination. So I want to talk about how important that is, because if anyone has engaged people who are without homes, and I want to say that because that's a new term, you know, we often say homeless, But if you've worked with someone who has spent a significant amount of time living not in a home, they will tell you, or not in a house, they will tell you they do have a home. They consider their tents, they consider the family that they have chosen and lived with down at the riverbeds, underneath bridges, as their family and their home. And so really understanding the client's perspective on their needs and allowing them to say what their choice for a house would look like is really critical. And I think for programs, and in my experience working with the pilot project over at IEHP will show that sometimes the easy part is finding the housing and placing, and the difficult part is maintaining that. So client self-determination is really a critical part of our engagement strategy. Next slide. So US Vets operates our clinical services around the principles of housing first. So housing is a right, not a privilege, regardless of their compliance with mental health treatment, regardless with their substance use. We continue to engage and move forward to support the client in finding housing. We also operate our clinical services, which is really just an aspect of our programming in all of our programs regarding with moving and training our staff with client-centered care. So we really try to ensure that our assessment, our treatment plans, our ongoing engagement with our veterans are utilizing their strengths, utilizing principles of empowerment, self-determination, and really relying on collaboration between the case manager and veteran to be able to move them forward with their goals. Next slide. So our theory for practice. This is used as assessment to set goals and also used to set interventions. And what it is that we use a trauma-informed care approach. So regardless of the program, we do screenings. One of them is our ASK, which screens for suicidal ideation. We also utilize a mental health screening, which is our for SSVF, the PHQ-9, which is a short inventory for screening for depression. And then we also do a substance use screening, which is our CAGE throughout all our programs. And really what we are doing is screening for trauma and being able to, once we are asking those questions, we're able to appropriately engage and assess and link them to the services that they need immediately. Additionally, through that lens, we utilize cognitive behavioral theories, solution-focused theories, and this is evident in our goals and some of the tasks that we set for both the case manager might take some responsibility in that, as well as of course, always the veteran, right? We want them to have that ownership over their goals as well. Next slide. So our theory of practice is more of our philosophical beliefs. But we also, implement this as well. So this would look like a strength-based model that includes motivational interviewing. That's something that our staff have regular professional training in. Just the knowledge of stages of change that we get our veterans who come in and they might be feeling ambivalent about housing, ambivalent about being in an apartment with 4 walls and a roof over their head and not really knowing how will they feel about that? What does that look like? And helping our case managers to understand that our veterans will show up on intake and be very motivated, and then we'll see that motivation, wean and wane, and that we need to continue to be supportive, and that's part of that change process. DBT techniques, excuse me, harm reduction techniques. Those are some of the models that we utilize when we're having veterans who are choosing to practice their addiction, or making the choice that, yes, they acknowledge they have PTSD or depression, but they're not ready to engage in services. So what are things that we can do to reduce harm and support the veteran where they're at in terms of seeking treatment? Next slide. So our theory of practice, theory for practice, was created through a multidisciplinary national clinical team. They had long discussions talking about, okay, what are the types of theories that are going to be best suited for our population? What are the things that we really want to, put forth as our strategies to end homelessness? So US Vets believed it needed a statement that identifies what the basis of our clinical practice is founded on and grounded on. Next slide. So in addition to our engagement strategies or theory for, theory of practice, we also have our therapeutic communities programming. So this is a part of our programming that is for our transitional housing, to some degree, our long-term supportive housing, and then it was definitely part of our emergency shelter and safe haven programs when we did have that contract. And this really uses an approach that engages our veterans to be part of a community, to be part of something larger than themselves, that they're able to contribute, that they're able to get support, that they're able to develop relationships, healthy relationships within those that are in the same program, and that they're able to build trust and safety in the programs that they're at, which are really critical in helping our veterans to transition to independent living. Next slide. So what does a therapeutic community look like in action? So our veterans are able to volunteer. We have these workstations, specifically at our transitional housing. They're able to be at the front desk, receive mail. A lot of our veterans enjoy doing groundskeeping, painting, picking up donations. So they're really able to give back. And what we found is that when our veterans have responsibility in the program, it really helps them to take pride, and there's an increased accountability for not only their actions, but and almost just kind of monitoring and supporting other veterans who may not be making the best choices. So really, what I want to emphasize is that everyone has an opportunity to play a role in that community that we're building. Another really neat thing that we have is the Veteran Council. We have that at March Veterans Village. We have it at Transitional Housing. It had been put on pause over, I think, most of last year because of COVID restrictions. We have both of those councils up and running now. And what it is I think it's like 5 or 6 veterans that come together once a month. They discuss things that the veterans want from the site, and they bring that back to the staff. They also plan days for the veterans. They had a fun day that they just planned last month, which was horseshoes, games, and barbecue. So it's a really neat avenue for community development within the programs. Next slide. Okay, well, that's the end of our slide. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Bowers. I don't see any questions yet, but I just want to thank you. I really just more and more, as I think about our speakers and sort of the order of today, I love that, right? We started off kind of with an overview of like, what is a veteran, and talking about the different discharge status, and then jumping into some specific programs, which can assist them, and then ending on a note where, right, you're really providing us with some specific tools and resources that we can use to engage veterans who come in contact with us day to day. And I know a lot of the folks on the line are direct outreach workers, supervisors, and while harm reduction may not be new to them, I know there were some other like cool tools such as motivational interviewing that you provided that will definitely help us increase engagement efforts. So thank you so much for that information.
Thank you.
At this time, I'll just kind of pause and see if anybody has any questions. For any of the speakers, you are welcome to unmute yourself and ask your question. And if there are none, that's okay. I think what I'll say to our speakers is know that you all three have received lots of kudos. And mainly from, I think it's important to highlight Grant with our county veteran services team. I know a lot of us have worked with his team. They provide an invaluable service as well in helping us connect veterans to benefits and all the different programs that were offered today. So with that, it looks like we're going to end on an early note. Oh, you just got a shout out, Dr. Bowers. I love US Vet, so please make sure to share that with your team. Before we wrap up here, I think it's important to acknowledge our special guest that we have in the house. I think it speaks volumes that during today's meeting, we had representatives from each of our supervisory district offices, District 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are represented today. We want to thank Robin Reed, Debbie Rose, Amber Smalley, Greg Rodriguez jumped on for a second, as well as Brad West from Assembly Member Cervantes' office. Thank you for joining us today. We appreciate not only your backup when it comes to policy, you guys are always advocating for our local programs, but also, helping make those warm connections for constituents that come to your office seeking support. We absolutely need to make sure that we increase the access points that veterans and their families access when they are in crisis and in need of resources. And so we think it's absolutely, it speaks volumes that you would take the time to participate with us today to support our local programs. And for everyone else, you two are our VIPs. I always, as you know, keep a track of how many people we have in attendance, and I counted 55 individuals. So while we definitely talked to some of the impact that COVID has had on our lives, definitely one positive thing that we're taking away is that it has allowed us to reach a larger group of audience at one time. So we thank you for joining us today, and we ask that you continue to keep us in mind for future webinars that we have. And I see that David Jacobson, you have your hand raised.
Yes, two things real quick. One, I want to say thank you very much for having this. Just enjoyed all the information. Two, we'll make it three. The next question was, I saw that there's a lot of information and a lot of programs for veterans, taking them from homelessness all the way to long-term housing. What about services? Are they getting plugged into services that will help them graduate out of long-term housing into like a home of their own or something, a situation like that?
Tanya, I can answer that. So for US Vets, we really take an individualized approach. So given that, sometimes, and just to kind of clarify, so our long-term supportive housing is permanent housing, independent living, but it comes with, if they are housed with a VASH voucher, they have VASH case management through the VA, and that case management will end when they meet their goals. With they are housed as a tax credit, that means they always have the option of coming down to our office and requesting case management, or just requesting assistance if it's just just touch and go issues, helping with paperwork. And yes, we do work. Every one of our programs that our veterans are enrolled and have an individualized service plan, we call it an IHEP, Individual Housing Employment Plan, are connected to services, are connected to benefits. That's one of the things that I'm really passionate about, is making sure that our veterans are always connected to any health benefits that they're eligible for, Medi-Cal, Medicare, as well as having a community resource that they maintain of behavioral health resources, community resources that they are knowledgeable and have access to.
Great, thank you for that. And also, I just wanted to, if you don't mind, just put it out that over here at Homefront at Camp Anza, we also provide long-term housing for veterans, and we actually have an opening in one of our units. So we're trying to get the word out. I believe it's a 3-bedroom apartment, so we're looking for a veteran family that's in need. So if anybody has somebody in the a family or veteran family that's in need of long-term housing, please point them in our direction. I'll go ahead and put our community director's information in the chat.
Thank you, David. And I knew I remembered you. Would have helped if you had your video on, but as you spoke, I just remember meeting with you, touring Camp Anza, and I really appreciate you sharing your bed vacancy. We'll absolutely make sure to share that with our providers. Because you mentioned that, it made me want to make another announcement so everyone knows. All of our veteran providers that provide housing resources, outreach services, meet on a weekly basis every Tuesday from 10 to 11, which is a meeting that is really focused on reviewing solely the veteran by name list, so a list of veterans who have been engaged during street outreach or emergency shelter, or have contacted our Home Connect hotline directly, or of course have been referred through a provider. And those meetings provide an opportunity for case conferencing, so that of course, the providers that are connected to each veteran have an opportunity to brainstorm with other local partners on housing services that are available to bring that individual and their family out of homelessness. So if you'd like to participate in those meetings,
Tanya, you're muted.
Have I been talking the whole time on mute?
No, just the last few seconds.
Oh, thank God.
So if you would like to participate in those meetings and then you dropped off.
Perfect. Feel free to email homeconnect@ruhealth.org. They have a great team over there. Morel Coronel, I believe, is on this line. She's the new CES coordinator. Her and her team can get you plugged in to those meetings. Of course, before that 10 o'clock, there is a general homeless meeting from 9 to 10 a.m. For our local homeless service providers. So I think with that, we'll go ahead and end. Thank you again for your participation. We appreciate you and look forward to connecting with you again next month. Thank you.
All right, and just as a reminder, next month's webinar is June 24th at 2 p.m. due to a conflict in the morning. And we'll see you next month.
Great job, Melanie. Thank you for all your help.